Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the podcast. My name is Bella and we're here for another week, which is very exciting because I'm going home tomorrow. I'm going home tomorrow and I'm so excited and so ready. I just feel like when I lived in London, I was always having a change of scenery. Like at least every 6 weeks, I was coming up to Manchester. At least every 4 weeks, no, at least every 4 weeks, I was coming up to Manchester. At least every 6 weeks, I was going home. Like, I had so much of a more change of scenery, and I know this is my own doing because I was like, I need to have some chill time in Manchester to start feeling a little bit more settled. So I understand that this is my own doing, but I just do feel a little bit like I'm just doing the same thing over and over and over again. I feel a little bit like a cog at the moment, which is not what we want to feel in our 20s. We do not want to be feeling like a cog, but I do think sometimes you just have to have those moments where you ground yourself. There's moments where you just have a little, little checkup, little MOT moment just for yourself. Because I feel like I've been having. Oh, I thought that was a spider then. It's not. It's a bit of fluff for my slippers, which is fine. I feel like I've been having like a lot of things going on and a lot of change, and I haven't really given myself a moment to just process it all. And I was saying earlier on that I think I'm finally starting to feel settled in Manchester now. Like it feels homely and it feels like I have a routine and it feels like I kind of know what I'm doing and I have people to talk to at lunch, and it's all of these little things. Like it's slowly becoming my place to live as well, which is nice. Like I think it takes longer to get to that point than you realize. It takes longer for a place to become your place as well as someone else's place, especially when you move somewhere to live with them. Like ending long distance and coming to Manchester, like it's been harder than I thought it would be and trickier than I thought it would be, but also easier in some ways. And I think that's really what I want this week's episode to be about. It's about creating a home wherever you are, kind of creating a home away from home in a place that isn't instantly yours, if that makes sense. But anyway, let's do a life update because this week it's going to be so lovely. Last time I spoke to you, it was Sunday. It was Sunday morning. Well, let me tell you, I didn't go on a walk. No, that did not happen. I didn't manage half of the things I told you I was going to do. We walked a little, found out that that was too much activity, that was, some days, oh no, I think I'm still tracking my workout. Let me just, end that instantly because otherwise, oh no, that's sad. I didn't track it at all. We move. I just felt way more tired after the night out on Friday, and I don't know why. Maybe this is an aging thing, but I felt exhausted. But I also think there's an illness going around at the moment, so it definitely could have been that. But anyway, we walked a little, got the stuff for dinner. I tried to find an activity because I have found I get a bit focused on these intense things. Like I got really obsessed with needing to find an activity for the afternoon. I was like, the day is ruined if I haven't found something to do. Baking a banana bread was enough of an activity. That takes skill, especially when I was eyeballing it. Eyeballing 50 grams and 120 grams of sugar, and I just had no idea what I was doing, to be honest. But I did manage to do it, and it is delicious. It's a bit too moist. Like I would go as far to say as wet. It's a bit sloppy in the middle. It's not as nice as my mum's, and it hasn't risen. Like when I took it out of the oven, it had this like rise on it, and then it sat and it just went, and it's just flat. So I don't think I did it right. I don't think that's what a banana bread is meant to look like, guys. Like that does not feel like the end product was meant to feel that type of way. But anyway, made a lovely dinner, made a curry, watched films, just had a very chill day. But this week has been busy. It's been busy. I worked till 7 today. No, 6:40. Disgraceful behaviour on my part. But I managed to go to the gym and I've been managing to fit things in. And the thing that I struggle with, because I know I was saying gym in the morning is great, I get really bored with a routine. And I think I've said about this before, but it was this girl's podcast or video or something, and she had ADHD, and she was like, the biggest hack that I've realised is that my routine isn't the same thing every day. It's 3 different things that repeat themselves, and it stops me getting bored. I was like, oh my God, I need that. And so I think like gym in the morning every 3 days is good for me. Gym every single morning, not a vibe. So early, so tiring. I dread it. I dread doing that. And so that's not gonna be the plan anymore. And I think it's realizing that like your routine can change as you change. Like you don't have to stick to it. I'm quite proactive, I think, in making change when I'm not happy. And I don't really do stuff I don't want to do because always a part of me wants to do it. Like if I wholeheartedly don't want to do something, I'm not doing it. I am, no matter what. No, I'm just not doing it. I'm just not doing it. But normally, I think that's why I've been skipping the gym in the mornings because it's just not been happening. But anyway, tomorrow I go home. I get to see my family and I get to see my dog and I get to see my grandparents. I just get to like stay in my at home room, my own bedroom. It just, I am excited. I am very, very excited because just the change of scenery would be so nice. And it'd be nice just to have like open air and greenery because I feel like that. I was quite good in London about like leaving London or going to Victoria Park or going like for a run and going to the parks and things like that. Whereas in Manchester, I've really just gone gym and that's it. And every Sunday when we're like, yeah, we'll go for a walk, we don't. So I'm hoping that maybe that changes. I'm trying to, try and not have as big of a Friday night again because guys, that wrote me off the entire weekend. That wrote me off. It was fun, but like I think I need to really, really want to go. And it's made me question what I'm gonna do for New Year this year. Because I don't think I want to go out. I'm just not feeling that. Going out vibe feels very, I don't know, last New Year was so eventful and so many bad things happened that I just think that wouldn't be a good idea. Like maybe that's a bad omen. Did I tell you about what happened last year? It was awful. We were in the pub, all fine. Then we couldn't get a taxi, and then some guy threatened to stab us, and it was all just very dramatic and very awful. And so I feel like now I just want to have a dinner party, or I just want to cook myself a nice dinner. Like, I'm very content to do my own thing on New Year's Eve. Is that boring? Maybe. But I also don't think it is. Like, I'm very happy to not. I feel like my need to go out, my need to party, and things like that. It's just, maybe it is boring. I don't think it's boring though. I don't feel this need to do it just to do it. Like I found other things that lie like equally as much. And it's not to say I'm never gonna do it. Like I've already booked my festival tickets for next year. Like I love going out, but I don't feel this pressure to do it anymore, which is nice because I used to feel like I had to do it on these, especially like these big events. Like I felt like for bonfire night, I was really missing out the fact that me and my boyfriend didn't get to go and like watch the fireworks and see the bonfire and all of these things. And I was like, this is really sad. This is really, really sad. And I was like, it's just a day. Like you don't have to always do something. And I think that's how I kind of feel about New Year's Eve. Maybe that is really boring. I've just never had a good one. I've never had a good New Year's Eve. And so my expectations are quite low, which is why I think dinner party would be ideal. Like that sounds really nice to me. Because also, I'm back at work on the 2nd. So it can't be too big of a day, you know? Can't be too much of a hangover because I'll be there working. Disgraceful. But anyway, on to the content part of this week's podcast. And this week, we are talking about, let me scroll, give me uno momento. Okay, this week we're discussing defining what home is and how you make a space feel like home. Because I think Manchester in the last couple of days or weeks has finally started to feel like home. And it's finally started to feel like a place where I feel comfortable and I feel settled and I feel, you know, able to exist in it and like feel very comfortable. And that's a new thing. And I think from moving to London, from moving to Manchester and like to wherever I move after this, the biggest thing that moving has taught me is to give yourself that grace period because I felt really uncomfortable when I first moved. And I had the exact same job as before. I knew the office that I was going to. I was moving in with my boyfriend and one of our friends. Like It was a very comfortable environment to move into, and I still felt uncomfortable. And I think no matter what situation whenever you change your living environment, you're changing that core thing that is always the same. Like, no matter what I do, I'll always come home at night. Like, I'll always, and that's a foundational part of my life here, is coming home. And so it was no wonder that when I moved from London to Manchester and changed that foundational, like, kind of part of my everyday, that I found it uncomfortable, and it's exploring how that uncomfortableness and how you can deal with that uncomfortableness and what it tells you about yourself. Because I think when we move to new cities, that unease that we feel, we often feel like we have to get over it straight away. And I remember when I moved to uni and I felt very kind of overwhelmed with everything that was going on. And I felt very, very kind of just shocked about how much there was to deal with. And I remember crying every single night of freshers. And I remember wanting to go home and just finding the fact that, like, I've moved out and I've gone to university, a massive thing to deal with, like a really, really massive thing to deal with. And the good news is that every single time that I've moved to a new place, it's got better. And that ability to deal with change and that ability to deal with kind of coping with a new environment has got better. And I think moving to London, that was hard. Like, I remember it was fine until me and mum, we drove into St Albans and I was like, shit, we're doing this, like, this is it. I'm going, and I don't know anyone. I don't know what I'm going into. I've just got onto this master's course and I'm just going to have to see what happens. And I don't know where my future is going to go. And there was so much uncertainty and it was scary. Like, I was really, really scared. Like, not just a little bit scared, like a properly terrified of going. But I just knew I had to go. I just knew I had to go. And I think I've become a bit more gentle in the ways that I think I have to push myself. I think when I was younger, I felt like I had to push myself to quite extreme lengths. Like, I felt like I had to go all out, I had to move my entire life, have to put myself in really uncomfortable positions, have to test who I am and let myself work myself out that way. But I'm starting to realize you don't always have to push yourself to the absolute max to be able to learn more about who you are. Like, you can do things a little bit more gently and put less pressure on your nervous system, and you don't always have to feel like you're in fight or flight in order to still be growing. Because I think when I moved to Manchester, and like especially over the past couple of months, I've been stressed about a lot of things, and I felt a lot in that fight or flight mode, and I felt very anxious the past couple of weeks. And it's okay, like, these moments come and go. It's the reality. They come and go. But I used to think that in that fight or flight response was when I grew the most. But I'm now realizing in this 1 week where I have felt a little bit calmer, the ways that I have been able to implement that growth have been so much more. Because although that fight or flight response teaches you about yourself and it teaches you about who you are and kind of where you want to go, it's in that calm moment that you can really implement that growth moments that you want to implement. It's where I can actually calm my brain and be like, you know what, this is okay. This isn't the end of the world. We're going to get through this, and this is going to be absolutely fine. And I wonder if this is also the impact of getting older and how I'll see change in moving home when I get older, because I'll be able to realize that that home that I have feels in me. Like, it feels a gradual process of feeling like Manchester is more home. And I think it's recognizing that that feeling of home is within me. That, like, that part that I felt really comfortable with in London, it's still here. It's still here because that part was me. Like, I was the person that felt comfortable. I can feel comfortable again. Like, that will happen. And I think it's that fight or flight response that had been kind of in that feeling of being home in myself and recognizing that I could have that. It's also important to acknowledge how much I wanted to escape and just really distract myself with so many things when I first moved. And it's that dealing with change in a way that is healthy and feels healthy, but is actually not healthy. Because I was thinking that doing absolutely everything and seeing everyone and, really going all in on the activities and planning and seeing people and everything, I was thinking this is helping me move. This is helping me establish myself. This is feeling good. But in actuality, I was just distracting myself from the feeling. And like when I first moved here, like the first night out that we went on the Friday night, I cried. And not a little cry, a big cry. Because I just missed my friends. And I miss my life. And it's hard leaving a place that you love so much. And I think this is the trickiest thing about long distance, is that you're constantly creating a life away from each other with the acknowledgement that like one day one of you is going to have to leave that life. Like one day something's going to change, and this life that you've been building up is going to end up being brought back down again, because ultimately you want to be together. Like you don't want to be long distance forever. And having to rebuild that home within yourself once you've tried so hard to build that home somewhere else can also be really hard. And I don't think it's spoken about enough how difficult it is to, like, obviously you want to move to be with that person, but now you're having to leave everything that you've known for so long and that brought you comfort and that made you feel safe and that made you feel welcome and kind of got you through a time that felt difficult, that got you through a point where you didn't feel the happiest. And I think that's a hard part about being in a long distance relationship, is that you're always thinking about when it ends, but when it does actually end, you don't realize that that life that you created whilst you were in a long distance relationship is also ending too. That's not going to be there anymore. And it's like the harsh truth, like as much as you want that life to stay on, and as much as you will stay friends with those people, like it's never going to be that way again. And I just think it's better off realizing that in a not dramatic, not intense way, but realizing that your current lived situation that you are living right now, and all of the actors and all of the scenes that you have in it, and all of the kind of characters and the plot twists, all of the settings, they matter. And so when you leave, things are going to change. And new characters will become involved in those people's lives, and new characters will become involved in your life. And all of a sudden, it will all start to feel much more interconnected, but in a different way, because I think you create this kind of spider web of your life, and then you change everything and so much about it that for you to expect it to stay the exact same and for you to expect to be able to hold on to that past life is unrealistic. And that's what I thought. Kind of thought I could have everything. Kind of thought that I could do it all at once. And you can't. And I think that's what makes it hard, because you leave and you think it's all going to be the exact same. You think nothing's going to change. And then you realize it has changed and you can't go back, and that this is your new normal and you just have to deal with it. And I did find myself in those first few days really wanting to like run away a lot and escape and just distract myself and be very comfortable and just like not really think too much about what was going on. And I think the thing that's been different about giving myself time to settle in, I think this would be my biggest piece of advice if you're moving somewhere new, is allow yourself time to settle. Allow yourself time for the dust to settle. Like allow and give yourself a moment to breathe, because you'll find that feeling of home within you again. You will. It just takes time, and it takes time to work out what this new home is going to look like. Because the home is just an environment you feel comfortable in. It's an environment you feel safe and loved and welcome in. And you created that before and you will create that again. And so much of that comes from you, like your person, your interaction with the things around you. And so you have to give yourself space and time to let that happen. Like it's not going to happen instantly. And I think in building that home within yourself, you build up your resiliency to deal with kind of change, because you realize that no matter what changes, you've still got that little home within you. You've got that island that you can look after yourself in. Okay? You've got so many things that you've got this one place that you can go into and feel safe. And I think moving away and having to create a home on my own, and then moving somewhere else, having to create another home, and just finding all of these different spaces, it can be hard not to isolate yourself in those moments and just become very, very, very solely focused on yourself, because it feels safer and it creates that resiliency, because you know that you have that little island on your own and you are okay. But it is tricky then not to just keep pushing the people around you away. And I recognize myself doing this, in that I thought that I was looking after myself, and I thought that I was safer, and I thought that I was more comfortable doing it this way. But in actuality, I was pushing people away because I was just scared that I was gonna have to leave people again. And I think it's taken me however long, August, September, October, November, 3 months it's taken me to finally realize that me and my boyfriend, we're not leaving each other. I can go and do something on a Monday night and that's fine. Because every time we've seen each other, it's been this mindset of okay, I'm going to see you for 2 days and then I'm not going to see you for another 5 weeks. And it's been that way for 4.5 years. And so I'm not used to this new normal of us being comfortable around each other and us feeling like we're not always in that fight or flight response when we're with each other. Because it's goes from such intensity to such lack of intensity, yo-yos in a way that makes you really question and feel a little bit uncomfortable in. It's not easy to be at ease with each other when that's your usual environment. And so I think it's taken me 3 months to realize that that is okay. We're not leaving each other. I'm safe here. And I think that's it. I've noticed this past week, and I know last week was a very anxious week, but this week does feel less of an anxious week. And I've noticed that I feel safe and I feel comfortable and I feel much more settled. And I think so much of that is learning to create that home environment in me. But it is hard. And I think the best ways to create that home environment are finding that routine, finding the way you can carve out space every day just for you, making your environment nice, tidying your room, doing things that make your space feel special, I think is important. And I think it shows you that you care about the place that you're living, about the environment that you're existing in. And I feel like that is an important thing, because this little island of just you, it can feel isolating. And it can sometimes mean that you don't really feel like you're checking in with a lot of people, and it can be lonely. And I think I have been lonely, but not in the way that I was lonely in London. It's different. And I'm starting to realize maybe we're always just not always just a little bit lonely, but we have this idea of what companionship and being with someone and friendship and everything is going to be like. We have such high expectations that we forget sometimes that you are going to spend time on your own. You're not always going to have someone there, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you're lonely, it just means you're alone. There's a very different way of perceiving the same thing. And so if you've also just recently moved, and if you're struggling a little bit to find that home within the space that you're creating, try to find some new routines, try to find some new places to explore, try to become excited about this new space that you're existing in, because it is exciting. You've moved here for a reason. There's a reason why you want to be here. And I think it's important that you start realizing that, because it's really easy to feel negative about this change, and it's really easy to question why you did it, and it's really easy to think, oh, I made a big mistake. And I have thought that. But I'm now more confident than ever that it was the right decision, because I do feel happy and I do feel settled and I do feel ready to kind of call this place home now. But it took me 3 months. So please don't put too much pressure on yourself. Please don't think that you have to have this all figured out. Please don't think that you're meant to feel instantly at ease. And some people will, and that's an amazing character trait. But some people won't, like me, and they'll find it harder. But once you do feel settled, it will feel so relaxing and so calm and so lovely. And you'll be so glad that you did it. But anyway, on to the question part of this week's podcast. We have had a change of scene because I am home for the weekend, and I haven't recorded this part of the podcast yet because yesterday worst hangover of my life so far in the last month. It was rough, and so there was no chance that was going to get recorded today, but it's fine because we're recording it now and this will still be out today. And so It's all fine. Anyway, first question. How do you think it's better to plan for the future or plan for one day at a time? I think for me, and I think there's not a right or wrong answer to this. Like, some people are going to prefer to plan for the future and some people really like having that plan. But I try and plan I try and, rather than have a strict plan, I have ideas about where I think I want my life to be in the next 1 year, 2 years, but I don't really have a strict plan, because more often than not, the things that I want to do change. And if I have this strict plan that I think I have to do, then I feel so much pressure in order to get there. And I think if you have a really set goal that you want to do and you want to achieve, then that's a bit different. But I don't. I don't really know what I want to do. I don't exactly know where I want to go. I'm still figuring that out. And so at the moment, I'm finding it easier just to plan each day as they come, you know, let things take me where they're going to take me, and kind of trusting the process that the things will take me to the right things, you know, the right opportunities will open up, the right environment will happen, like the right path will show its way to me. But I do make sure that I'm doing things that kind of get me along that way, you know, like finding a job in an area I want to do, making sure that I'm still pushing the podcast, like doing different things that I think are things that I feel passionately about and good about, but also not putting so much pressure. Like, I used to put really, I need to be 100,000 followers by here, I need to grow by this much by there. And it just put a lot of pressure on something that I'm meant to find really enjoyable. And so I think I think both have their place. But I think having a kind of end goal of like lifetime achievements that you want to do is good to think about. You know, it's important to think about, like, what do you want to do with your time here? Because you're not going to be here forever. What type of things do you want to do, and making that happen? Because thinking that things are just going to happen, it doesn't work like that. No amount of manifesting is going to make things happen. You have to take action in order for things to get to that point. But I also think we can become a bit overwhelmed with thinking that we have to plan absolutely everything out. Like, I think you have to have maybe like a couple of goals and then give yourself that space to breathe. Give yourself that moment to understand where your life is going. Give yourself that moment for things to fall into place, you know? Okay, next question. How do you leave people and just let go? I think it's a steady process. I think learning to let people go, unfortunately, takes time, because it takes time to realize for yourself that you're okay without them there, that you don't need them in your life, that you are a whole person, just you and your own, just you by yourself. And that's something that can feel a little bit uncomfortable, because you want them in your life and you want to keep them in it, and you try so hard, and then eventually you just kind of realize that it's not working, and it's not worth all the effort, and it's not worth all the stress, and then I think you do let people go. And the thing is, time is such a great healer, and time is one of those things that it really, really does help. And these things that you think you're not going to be able to get over, you do get over. And you learn to live without them, and you learn to have a great life, and you create new characters in your life, and you do become happy again. So I think you learn to let people go over time. And I know that's probably not what you want to hear. I think you probably want like a solution for right here, right now. But I think the best thing you can do is really, you know, I'm a big fan of no contact. I don't think contact is always good. I think it serves as a reminder, and it can be harder to move on. And although that's harder in the beginning moments, I think you need to give yourself the chance to actually move on from this. You need to give yourself a chance to let them go. And so that sometimes means not speaking to them, really protecting your peace and protecting your boundaries, and thinking about what you need in this right moment. And when I'm finding it hard to do the things that I'm meant to do, I really imagine, like, what would I tell my sister or my friend or you guys? Like, what would I say? And I really try and stick to that, because I think you know the situation best. And so making sure that you do what makes you happy, but also allows you to let go of someone, is important. And the final question: how do you slow down in the moment and not just think about what's coming and what's coming and what's coming? I find this really hard. Okay, like, it doesn't happen to me naturally. I am an overthinker, and I love planning because it gives me that sense of control about what the future holds and where the future's going. But I do find that I am trying to become more present, and I'm trying to see things more in isolation of what they are. I think I have a tendency to extrapolate the importance of things in my life, like thinking like a job is a be all and end all of absolutely everything, and like forgetting like that your family, even like, okay, you're having a tough day at work, your family is still okay, you are okay, like, you know, like seeing more like strict boundaries, that everything doesn't blend into one, because I think that makes overthinking so much harder, because you think one bad thing and one of them is going to affect everything. But seeing things in isolation means that, okay, well, that can not be going great, but these things can be going good, or that can be going bad, but these things can still be going good. And I think that's easier. And I think that's helped me slow down a little bit more in the moment. And I am trying to just be more conscious with slowing down, with being more present, with stopping all the mindless scrolling, with actually like just enjoying spending time with my family whilst I'm here, not always needing to do the podcast. I think that helps. I think giving yourself like specific chunks of time to do stuff and really just focusing on that and then finishing it is another big thing that I'm trying to do, because I try and do everything all at once and it's exhausting and it's not really working because I'm tired and I'm shattered all of the time because I'm always trying to do absolutely everything all of the time. And now I'm just trying to do things more in isolation, take things as they come, but not think I have to do absolutely everything. But anyway, on to the new things I've done this week. A new thing I've done this week is I haven't finished Rivals last Sunday. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. I know I've already spoken about it, but you really should watch. Like, I really, really enjoyed that series. Other things I've watched this week, to be honest, I feel like I haven't really been watching much TV this week, and I don't know why. We watched that documentary on Netflix about this guy who suffered really, really bad abuse from his wife. It's like the new Netflix documentary, and that was really sad, to be honest. It was a hard watch. I couldn't watch it in the end. It just made me feel too sad. But it was like a good documentary. Like, it was done well. I just found it really sad. So I think pick that one based on your, how your week's going. But it was a good watch. It was just very sad. And then also have watched not much. I've started reading A Court of Thorns and Roses, like the final book of that series again. And it is good. I just feel really sad that the focus of the main characters has changed. And to be honest, it's never really sat right. Like, I like Nesta, but like, it wasn't the story I'm invested in, Like, I've spent a lot of time reading the other story, and now to swap at this point just feels a bit like, but I understand. I just feel a bit, I didn't want that. But anyway, hopefully I'll finish that today, and then I'm needing a new book, and I think I'm going to read, it's like something begin with H, The Handmaid's, not The Handmaid's Tale. It's like The Housemaid. I'm going to read that because I've seen so many good reviews about it, and I'll give you a full review. I'll give you a full review. Hopefully when I finish it in a couple of weeks' time, because I need to get back into reading. That's another way that we slow down. We become more present in the tasks that we're doing. I think that's it. That should be my answer to the previous question. How do you stop doing everything all at once? Become present in the tasks that you're doing and stop seeing everything as interconnected. Start seeing things in isolation, because it helps. It gets a little bit less overwhelming as well. Other new things, I've just had a lovely weekend being with my family, to be honest. I've really enjoyed it, and I think I needed that change of scenery, need a little change of pace. But anyway, I need to go because I need to go to TK Maxx to buy a suitcase before my train in 30 minutes. Will it happen? No, it won't happen, but we will see. Anyway, make sure that you follow me on Instagram and on TikTok at You'veGotMail_pod, and I cannot wait to speak to you again next week. I love you. Bye.